Well, good evening. Welcome to another meeting in North Fair Oaks. Council meeting, our regularly scheduled meeting for today, our official meeting for October. We have the roll call, please.
Commencing roll call. Vice Chair George Salmon. Councilmember Kathleen Daly. Here. Councilmember Eduardo Rodriguez. Councilmember Niket Searcy.
Here.
Councilmember Brooks Esser.
Here.
Councilmember Blair Whitney. Here. Councilmember Kelly Parisi. Chair Juan Carlos Prado.
Here.
Thank you. Just a brief announcement. We do have an interpreter joining us this evening in the back, Manny. So if any of you want a headset, he'll be assisting you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening? So moved. Second. Can we have a vote? Aye. Okay. Okay, having approved the agenda, we will move forward to the first item. We will now move into public comment. Does anyone have a public comment on a topic not in the agenda?
No public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Then we will move to our agendized item. Don't know any comments. We can move to the first agenda item. Okay. Question?
Question real quick. There was pretty sure going to be some public comment tonight. And I mean, we were only 2 minutes in. I did advise them, so. Do you have anyone? You don't have anyone?
One hand.
Okay.
We do have one
Yeah.
on Zoom. When I call your name, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Like to call, we're gonna put the time right now. Fabi? You may unmute yourself and speak.
Yes.
Hi, Orlando Cardona, Director from Verbo Ministries and Verbo Family Services. The problem that we have is that our rent is increasing 25% starting next month. So it's very hard for us to keep going with food distribution and all the problems that we have in our building. So we have been receiving the reports from different news that they're presenting everything on the news, hoping that if there is people willing to help us with the rent increase that we are having, basically it's going to be $60,000 a year extra that we have to pay. And so our website is verboredwoodcity.org.
Hi, this is Fabi as well. I just wanted to add, we have been, serving the community for over 25 years. And like we said, we are a church, but we are also a family service program. And we've been able to help a lot of families from North Fair Oaks. And that's our main concern, that if we were to have to move buildings, obviously we can find another church building elsewhere, but for people that come walking to get food or receive any of the other things that we offer, like tutoring, English classes, and karate and stuff like that, it would be difficult for those families to reach us if we were to move locations or like the after school program and stuff like that. That's what we wanted to present.
Thank you. Last call for public comment before we move on. Yeah, no public comments. Back to you, Chair.
Having be no more public comment, we'll move on to our informational and recommendation Bay Road Complete Street Rehab Project. Deputy Director of Public Works, please, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christoph Lisai. I'm one of the Deputy Directors of Public Works, overseeing the Engineering and Resource Protection Group. And today I'm going to be presenting to you on the Bay Road Complete Streets Rehabilitation Project. And we have a request for a letter of support from this council to our Board of Supervisors.
Speak more into the mic, sorry.
Yeah, we have a request from this council to our Board of Supervisors with the goal of trying to keep $4.3 million of grant money in the North Fair Oaks community. Next slide, please. So the Bay Road Complete Street Rehabilitation Project is located on Bay Road between 5th Avenue and 15th Avenue. Bay Road is a main corridor in the area that connects residents with destinations along Bay Road, including the Marsh Manor Shopping Center. Taft Elementary School is on Bay Road, the School Activities League, and it also has a Sam Trans bus route. The road is actually shared right of way between the Redwood City and County, split right down the middle. And the current configuration is a 2-lane road with 1 lane in each direction, a center turn lane, parking on both sides, and no bikeway. Next slide, please. This just shows a map and the jurisdictional limits of the county as well as the city. And we also are showing the bus stops. So you can see Taft Community School is kind of situated right in the middle, with the community shopping center on the south end of the project, along with 6 bus stops. Next slide, please. As far as the concerns for the Bay Road Complete Streets Rehabilitation Project and why we decided to develop this project, through various community plans, we found out that there is several comments that are common among these plans. The common theme is there is high vehicular speeds on the road. There's lack of safe walking and bicycling facilities along the corridor for students and for residents. It's difficult to cross the streets and cars don't necessarily yield to pedestrians. And there's not enough red paint for the bus stops to be able to pull in and pull out and pick up school children as well as passengers. Next slide, please. And so as far as the goals, we want to make sure that through the project, we want to improve walking, bicycling, and transit conditions, and increase traffic safety and reduce crashes. So this is a priority project that's been identified in several plans, both within the city of Redwood City as well as the county. It's included in the Redwood City Walk, Bike, Thrive Plan. It's included in the San Mateo County Active Transportation Plan, the CCAG, Comprehensive Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, as well as been identified as a youth-based high injury network as a hotspot. And through the Taft Community School Walk, Bike Audit and Field Review, they also recommended some improvements for the area. Next slide. As far as what we plan to do, we want to have a community-led process where we go through design in partnership with the city of Redwood City. We want to improve the bicycling and pedestrian facilities. So this will include adding bike lanes, either a class 2 or a class 4, repairing or improving sidewalks along the corridor, improving crossings, improving ADA access through curb ramps and bulb outs. And then specifically at the intersection of 15th, Flores, and Spring, so that's that kind of tricky intersection at the south end of the project, we're going to install either a traffic signal or a roundabout based on what the community decides. Slide, please. And so we were lucky to be able to apply for the One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3 in 2022. It was a joint partnership application with the city of Redwood City and the county. We requested $3.8 million with about a $500,000 county match that's split between Redwood City and the county evenly for a total project cost of $4.3 million. When we applied for the grant, the county was the lead applicant, and we were tentatively awarded the grant in 2023. Next slide, please. Through the grant process, we did receive several letters of support from the North Fair Oaks community. So that included the Community Alliance to Revitalize Our Neighborhood, North Fair Oaks Community Alliance, the Redwood City School District, Redwood City Active Transportation Advisory Committee, which is like the equivalent of our Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, Redwood City Together, Sam Trans, and the Siena Youth Center. And through the design, we have identified a funding pot funding bucket, and through the first phase, there is additional community outreach and engagement that we'll be doing with the city of Redwood City if we get the grant and are moving forward with it. Next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry. So as far as OBAG 3, so one thing that we unfortunately ran into is some eligibility challenges. When we started with the application, one of the core elements of the OBAG 3 grant was that the county needed to have an approved housing element, which we have been working hard on. Unfortunately, we do not feel, or we're not projected to have our approved housing element by the December 31st deadline, which puts the grant in jeopardy. It's a matter of the fact that the county has a lot of uncontiguous, unincorporated areas, and the planning process is complex, especially on the coast side when we're working with the California Coastal Commission. And it's not that we're not behind the ball or anything like that. It just takes time to get through the Coastal Commission process. I will say that the zoning within the North Fair Oaks area and within the project area, that all has been approved, and it would be certified and compliant if it was a standalone project. And Redwood City does have an approved housing element, which was certified by the state. Next slide, please. And so as far as the proposed action, what we're asking to do is for the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to transfer the project sponsor from the county to Redwood City. And this would allow us to keep the funding for the project. The only difference is the Redwood City would be the lead. We would still participate in the same level and the same scope. We would still contribute the same amount. And talking with CCAG, they recommended that we provide letters of support, both from our county offices through our CEO, as well as through our supervisors and through the communities in the area. And so that's why we're here today. And so what we're asking is for this council to provide a letter to the president of the Board of Supervisors, for them to provide a letter of support in transferring the sponsorship of the project from the city of Redwood City to the county. We've included draft letters of each in the agenda item, and that completes my presentation. So I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Christoph. Are there any questions from council members? Okay.
Thank you. I guess one question, you said that when you transfer the leadership to Redwood City, does that mean at that point they'd be in charge of the planning and you'd be like a stakeholder, or is it the agreement that, hey, we're going to keep the same design and outreach and work through the same issues, even if you guys are the lead on that?
Yeah, our expectation is we're going to have the same level of involvement, and it's more of an administrative task of making sure that the project sponsorship. We want to make sure that we're engaged with the community and that we're part of the design process so that what is recommended and designed ultimately makes sense for everybody.
Is that something that's going to be, once the design is approved, does that come back to the county? And do we get to see that at that point? Or
Yeah.
is it only the Redwood City?
No. So my expectation is there's probably going to be a parallel process where Redwood City will take it to whatever councils and communities they want to take it to, and we'll take it to whatever we feel is appropriate for the North Fair Oaks area. And I expect that our presentation will be at this council as well as other community-based organizations and probably community meetings as well during the design process.
And then is there a process to resolve any conflicts that come up between the county and the city in case design elements don't match, or there's some needs that, for example, we're looking at, or from the county or NFO perspective versus the Redwood City side? Yeah,
I mean, generally the city and the county work pretty well. I don't think there's anything written in like the agreement or in the scope of work, but we both agreed to generally what the overlying project is. So we'll make sure to, design it in the best interest of the North Fair Oaks community and make sure that we take the community's feedback into account when we go through the design process.
Thank you.
Kathleen, I think you were next.
Yes, thank you. Couple things. One of my questions, of course, is whose voice will be louder in this? I get asked questions. Whose voice will be louder? How will we make sure that they work with the residents on the North Fair Oaks side of Bay Road? And are there any guarantees? My question. How come the same thoughts were not given to Middlefield Road and much better crosswalks on Bay that aren't equal to the rest of North Fair Oak. So can that get written in? I actually would like to ask if there's going to be any guarantees for this. It sounds like we all get along, but I would like to know if there's any guarantees.
So we're gonna enter into a cost sharing agreement with the city where our contribution is 50% of the local match. So I would feel like that's probably gonna be the opportunity for us to withhold any kind of contribution if we don't feel like they're adhering to our requests. In terms of any kind of guarantees, I don't, aside from us not wanting to move forward or not allowing them to do work on our side of the road, that's pretty much it. I mean, again, we're doing this in partnership. It's a large regional grant, and so I think it behooves both the city and the county to work together well and make sure that we're doing something that the community wants. One of the goals of the grant is community engagement, and so they're going to want to see that throughout the process. We're going to have to do quarterly reports to the grantors to make sure that we're aligning with their requirements. So I feel like those are kind of the checks and balances to make sure that we're incorporating what the community wants, specifically North Fair Oaks. And I'm sorry, what was the question about Millfield?
We'll skip that one. No,
Okay, Ever, I believe you're next.
Thank you, Christoph. Are they going to, on the North Fair Oak side, is there going to be remediation for the flooding streets? I believe it's from like 6, 7, 8, those streets particularly.
Not as part of this project, but we do have a separate project that we're going out into construction next year. So the county Public Works Department has undertaken a project where we're moving the drainage facilities on Bay Road from 5th to 9th. To 8th at least, and I think it goes past 9th, where we're installing drainage facilities and then tying into the drainage, Redwood City's drainage system at 5th. So there's a different project that's going out that's working to address the flooding there.
Thank you. And not a question, but perhaps a suggestion. Remember that during the planification process for the Middlefield Road corridor, from 5th to Pacific, there was involvement from the council. At least 2 or 3 council members were consistently involved in a committee that was created for the planification from the community. And I would suggest that those of us interested in, particularly those of us who live close to Bay Road, if we can get involved, just to also learn and perhaps keep the rest of the council members informed about, how things are going.
Yeah, we are going to develop a community outreach plan during the initial phase of the project if we do get awarded the money. I think part of that will probably be the development of like a technical advisory committee and a community advisory committee, where we'll be reaching out obviously to this group as well as anybody else in the community that's interested to participate in that process, with the expectation that we'll probably have several meetings during various stages of the design for input and making sure we're aligning with the community needs.
Thank you.
Blair, you were next.
Thank you for your presentation. Whenever there's a motion on the floor, I'm going to definitely vote for the motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that we recommend they flip the project lead to Redwood City so that we don't lose the money. Local government, well, when you got money in the pipeline, you don't want to lose it. And the Metropolitan Transportation Commission is for all these 9 Bay Area counties. And I'd hate to start over on a project or lose the opportunity. So we can work out the details later, but it's real important that we get the money. I'm also conscious of local government sometimes has this destructive competition where they compete against each other. They'll annex like a big box store to grab the sales tax and leave all the residential stuff that's messy outside of the jurisdiction, leave that to the county. We'll grab Costco and Target. We wanna have like a big development deal with Stanford, so we'll annex this, but we'll leave the rest in the county. Bay Road, yeah, the two sides of the streets are like night and day. You got the manicured campus with the childcare center and a credit union, garages, office space. And then on the other side, you've got the church that's facing eviction with the community service agency. You've got just a whole bunch of auto businesses. I've biked up and down it. As soon as you start making changes with parking, everyone's gonna be upset. They're gonna blame us, but whatever. Nonetheless, I will support the motion because I don't want to lose the opportunity to do something good for the future. We could work out the details later, but I kind of trust Redwood City, but you know, with a reservation because they're after their self-interest and you know, the event horizon is like the next council election, not much further sometimes. I don't know. You know, that's all I got.
Blair, after Blair, Brooks.
Yeah, I agree with Blair. I'll definitely vote for the motion to recommend change of leadership to Redwood City. Christoph, just a couple quick questions. What's the speed limit out there right now? You mentioned speed as being a problem. I've seen that personally on Bay.
I would imagine it's 25 miles an hour. It's a residential area. There's a school there. So definitely during school hours, it's 25. And then I would imagine it's 25.
I think it's 35. It might be something to consider, but it seems like people drive 35 out there to the airport. And then you mentioned bus stops and changes related to the bus stops as part of the project.
Yeah, so Samtrans has new bus standards that we would work to incorporate into this project, and they're just larger. And basically, it's just additional red curb to allow them to pull in and pull out
Flexi buses. So yeah, just keep in mind, you know, the issues that we had on. Right. And you know, this is just something to think about when you're doing that, so we can avoid inconveniencing businesses to the extent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Niket?
Yeah, one quick comment. I think it's 25 for parts of it, but 30 for others, depending on how quick it is to the school. So it's a variable speed limit there. Is there a preliminary plan yet, or is this just where we need to do all these things because it's recommended by all these reports, and that's where you're getting the grant money from?
Yeah, the reports are basically high level. You know, there's lack of bicycle facilities, so we want to work to improve that. There's lack of ADA access ramps, so it's more high level, and then through the design process, we'll come up with different alternatives, and I think that's where we'll get into the detailed design of exactly what the commute, like the trade-offs.
And that only starts once the grant is awarded.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any further comments?
I would agree, we would never turn down that kind of money, so I'm on board with that. I just want to make sure, I would really like to see some guarantee. There's a lot of residents along that strip. Really, it's only the school and the big field, and of course down by Marsh Manor. So residents who may lose street parking, may lose a big now bus stop in front of their house with changes. So I think it's super important that I would like this letter to reflect something along the lines of the North Fair Oaks Community Council wants input, wants to be on a seat at the table when it's Redwood City, because they are bigger and stronger than us, and there's more on that side that weights heavily as opposed to just residents on the other side, and those residents matter to North Fair Oaks. So I just want to make sure, I would like a seat at the table, but I would agree we would never turn that kind of money down, and I wouldn't want to stop a project like this, but I'm gonna ask that we look at some seat at the table with Redwood City and force it in this letter if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the content of the letter is obviously at the discretion of this council. We drafted something that we think makes sense. Main thing, I think, is just showing support for the transfer so that we are able to keep that funding within, and definitely appreciate all the comments about making sure that we have a seat at the table. We, you know, from the county's point of view, we definitely want to engage with this council as well as the community out there. And so we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure we are adhering to that.
Thank you.
If there are no other comments from the council members, I would like to say, Christoph, as you can hear, the sentiment here from the council is we don't want to lose any, you know, autonomy over this project, particularly because the county initiated the project, from what I understand. And that's great that it's going to be a partnership, and we have all of our boundary of North Fair Oaks with the city, and we have a lot of ongoing projects, and we probably will continue forever. I mean, for neighboring governing bodies. But I just want to, again, just reiterate the importance of our continued participation, and so that way we don't feel like we're giving away autonomy. Thank you. Any public comment regarding this particular agenda item?
If you would like to comment on agenda item number 4, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring your speaker slip to the clerk at this time. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak when your name is called. No public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, then I'll ask for a vote for this recommendation. If I believe we need a motion. I need a motion first. There's somebody who wants to make a first and second.
Sure, I'll make a motion to recommend that the board send a letter to the Board of Supervisors to request a change of leadership on the Bay Road project to Redwood City from the county as it is now.
Second. Okay, Nick, seconds. Can I have a vote?
Right.
Aye. Yeah, unanimous.
Passes.
Thank you. It's a great action. We'll move along to our next agenda item. Informational San Mateo County Transportation Authority. Director of Planning and Fund Management, Patrick. And
Great, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Charles C. Chang. I'm a Government and Community Affairs Officer with SamTrans and the Transportation Authority. I'm joined, I'm joined by Patrick Gilster, the Director of Fund and Grant Management, Planning and Grant Management. And so we're here tonight to talk about the San Mateo County Crossing Improvements Plan, what we're calling Active 101. I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
I'll try to stay as close as possible. All right, great to see you all. I think I was here in the spring talking about transit, but excited to be back talking about a grant that the San Mateo County Transportation Authority got from Caltrans from their Sustainable Transportation Planning Fund. So as Charles mentioned, my long-winded title for this, the US 101 San Mateo County Crossings Improvements Plan, more easily known as Active 101, is an exciting effort for us to look at critical crossings for people walking and biking and accessing transit within a quarter mile of US 101, and looking at how people travel directly along the freeway to look at filling gaps in that network. Next slide. But what I don't think we've done to this body yet is talk about the San Mateo County Transportation Authority's 101 Corridor Connect program, something we launched last year. And to kind of get your juices flowing on why this is necessary and what we're trying to do, we've been asking folks, have you ever experienced traffic like this out on US 101? And I see lots of folks laughing because yes, I think we have all sat in traffic like this at one time or another on US 101. You go to the next slide. So what we're trying to do with this new program is to create a collaborative effort to identify and prioritize congestion management projects along the entirety of US 101 in San Mateo County. And that is looking beyond just highway program or highway infrastructure. So we know that we can't just build our way out of every congestion issue. So we're looking at how we consider all mobility needs along the corridor. And so the overarching 101 Corridor Connect program is actually looking at 1 mile on either side of the corridor. So we are right now, we have a different initiative in the North County, the Mid County, and we'll actually be here in the spring for South County, doing multimodal strategies for those. So you'll hear us again talking about all the range of transportation needs that we can help with there. But if we go to the next slide, you might ask, well, how do you manage congestion without looking at just highway improvements. And so one of the things I like to show is you look at reducing congestion in many different ways, but transportation works when you don't have to think about it. So in areas where we can connect our regional transit to our bike and walking facilities, to our shuttle systems, to the Samtrans buses, all of these things, and make it a seamless effort. And then you don't think about it and we take it for granted in areas where it works really well. That's how we reduce congestion. So we're going to be looking at linking all of those different modes of transportation in the overarching program to help provide mobility options across the county, so people don't have to rely on a car for every single trip. We all know that cars are going to be around, but it means that if we can get a person to take one trip in another fashion, that's one more car off the road and reducing congestion. So if we go to the next slide. Our entire program and our Active 101 project fits under this program, which I'll get to in a sec, is looking at how we're creating safe, connected, sustainable, and inclusive transportation options around US 101 in the future, or right now, actually, sorry, with the plans. Next slide. So when we talk about Active 101, we are looking with the grant. And this is, I'm sure folks are familiar with the US 101 84 Woodside Road interchange. Would you walk and bike here? And I don't mean to pick on Redwood City. They do other great things. But this old interchange doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have bicycle facilities. It doesn't have crosswalks. It doesn't have anything that would be inviting for someone who is choosing or has to walk or bike through that interchange. So this project, we'll go to the next slide, is going to be taking a look at ways that we can try to address that. So that's anything from fixing the Woodside Road interchange, which is a monumental project and getting closer to with a federal grant recently, but to other connections like the one in Redwood City. So not saying they do everything poorly, don't want to pick on them completely. They do have this great undercrossing that connects near there as well. So looking at those facilities that we can actually use that would be comfortable for someone walking or biking to be able to get to transit in particular. Go to the next slide. Sure, you're all familiar with what we mean by active transportation, but just in case there's folks in the room that aren't, active transportation refers to people who are walking or people who need to bike or people using a mobility device like a wheelchair or someone using a scooter, or if you're more brave, they have those single wheel ones where people use and get injured. So more power to those people. But if you go to the next slide, the outcome of this effort is really to help look at along the entirety of US 101. So it's a big effort, a countywide effort about where we need things like sidewalks to get across the freeway for people walking, where we need curb extensions at on-ramps, off-ramps to make cars slow down as they're going around there, or to better make people visible to cars. So providing smaller crossing distances and crosswalks that are high visibility. So people driving know people are supposed to be walking there and are expecting them. But it could be things like lighting. It could be things like the flashing pedestrian lights you see too. It could be separated bikeway infrastructure, similar to what we saw on the last slide. Or it could be things like overcrossings, kind of like the one on the right as well. So a whole host of different things we're trying to look at. You can go to the next slide, it's okay. But a big thing that we are trying to think about is really why active transportation, like why is this important? And when we looked at all trips from all transportation options throughout San Mateo County, 56% of trips of all trip types in San Mateo County are actually less than 3 miles in length. So when you think about going to work might be your farthest trip sometimes, but when you're going to the grocery store or taking your kids to school or you're running over to see your family, it's not always that far away. Sometimes those trips are actually really close. So when we're talking about congestion management, if a lot of those closer trips are being taken in a car, some are being taken from one interchange, getting on the freeway, going to the next one, it's a lot of vehicles. So when we look at providing options for people to get out of their cars, when we talk about potentially walkable trips, those are normally the trips anywhere from 0 to 1 mile in length. 1 mile can be a little bit much, especially if you have to walk a mile back. I was gonna talk with my hands. But then we talk about 1 to 3 mile trips, and those are potentially bikeable trips. Obviously, they're only potentially walkable or bikeable if you have those comfortable, connected, safe facilities that are good to use and it provide an enjoyable experience. So that provides a huge opportunity that even if we cracked that number a little bit, that's a lot of cars off the road in rural communities. So when we're talking about greenhouse gas reductions and vehicle miles traveled reductions, all my nerdy transportation talk, those are great ways in which we can help our communities break down that number. Next slide. We know we're not starting from zero. So as I think Christoph showed in your last slide about Bay Road, there's a lot of different plans that are out there that have identified lots of different projects. And so Active 101 has taken all of those different projects within a quarter mile on either side of the freeway, from CCAG's comprehensive countywide bike and ped plan, the Caltrans District 4 bike plan and pedestrian plan, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's regional active transportation network plan, and all the cities and the counties plan, and aggregated all of those different project needs along the entirety of US 101. And if we go to the next slide, we identified that there's 148 needs that haven't been addressed yet. So when you think about that number, and that's just in a quarter mile, that's not all the walking and biking needs in all of those other plans. That's just a quarter mile on either side of the freeway. We have a really hard problem countywide of trying to figure out, where do we start? How do we start cracking that number? And so with this plan, we took the project goals from, or the corridor goals from 101 Corridor Connect, safe, connected, inclusive, sustainable, and used the state's active transportation grant award evaluation criteria, and then ranked all of those 148 needs. And what we came away with is 25 of the top needs in the north part of the county, 25 in the mid part of the county, and 25 around US 101 in the south part of the county. So that's what we've done with phase 1. And so we're out now, which Charles will get into in a minute, is coming to the community and trying to figure out, of those, what's most important to you. So we can take those and prioritize the top needs in each part of the county. And what we're going to do is actually knit an entire facility together along US 101. So we have a parallel route that we can, it's a big thing to work on, it's not going to be quick, but work with Caltrans and our other partners to figure out how we make it easier to walk and bike, not just north-south, but how we look at those important crossings as well. So we'll be out here at phase 1 talking about that. And then come spring, we're hoping to take 8 to 10 of those needs that haven't actually started at all and actually do some of that early design work, the conceptual design work, and come back to the communities and say, here's what we think can address those needs and help address other needs in those areas as well. How do you feel about them? What else should we include? What else would meet your needs? And that way we can integrate those into those plans. Because the biggest thing we hear when we're applying for state and federal and regional funding is how has community-based organizations and nonprofits reviewed your plans? How have it's actually been incorporated into your plans, and how have you been reporting back to them on those plans? So really critical things that I think historically in transportation funding always haven't been done correctly. And so we're trying to figure out with this effort how we can kind of move those 8 to 10 projects forward. And then as the Transportation Authority, we can help our local jurisdiction partners in the county, depending on what those 8 to 10 projects are, try to help get those funded and bring in more funding from the county and actually get those projects on the ground faster. So with that, I think the next slide is Charles. Yep.
Great, thanks, Patrick. So how are we going to narrow it down to see how the community prioritizes it? So I'm not sure if you can click on the link, but if you can't, you can also go to smcactive101.com if you want to follow along. Okay, so basically what the tool does, it takes the 75 projects and it splits them north, there's 25 projects, mid, there's 25 projects, and south, so there's 25 projects. And people essentially get 10 coins and they can split it to prioritize which projects they're most interested in. And so someone could do 10 points in all of one project, or they can split it 3 coins, 4 coins, 2 coins. They can do it however they want. But from these coins, we'll get an assessment of how people are feeling about certain projects. And you don't have to, oh, there it is. Okay, so this is what the website looks like. So as you can see, it'll be split. When you go to the website, there's a map of all the different projects for the entire corridor, and then it'll split it by segments, so north, mid, and south. You don't have to only be restricted to south if you live in south. You can vote in north, mid, or south. People travel throughout the county and they work in different places too. So after you vote, be sure to submit your email address because we are raffling off a $250 grocery gift card to someone. So when we finish wrapping that up, we're going to come back in spring and we'll have a top 10 for each segment. That's really it. The tool also I wanted to highlight, if you go on the top right, when you access it, there's a bunch of different languages, not just English and Spanish, but there's multiple languages, including Chinese and a couple other languages. So it's accessible and people can access it in different languages. Yeah, we do. Do you want to go to the next slide? So this is just the timeline of us coming back to the spring. And then we did want to lead a little short discussion. The next slide. So these are just, oh, so this is about the gift card. And then so next slide, please. So we just wanted to go into a little bit of a discussion. So how does 101 act as a barrier in your community for the members of your community? What would the ideal active transportation connections near 101 look like in your community? And if you had a magic wand to fix anything for people walking, biking, or rolling near 101, what would you fix? So you don't have to answer one or all of them. It's just kind of a dialogue to hear more about your thoughts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from council members regarding this agenda item? Danette?
Well, I want to say first, thank you very much. I'm really glad to see the activity and some of the thoughts and helping organize it. As somebody who has used the Marsh Road and the 84 messes at regular times, anything can be better. I would say that I'm a little bit curious on how far along any of the thought process are. I know, I think a few months ago, we had a presentation where we had talked about overcrossings for the Caltrain line. And we found out that we can't actually do that because of where the location is, and the study kind of showed that there's problems with some of that. So is this very theoretical at this point that, hey, we just need to look into what can be done, not that there are active solutions? And then follow up with that.
Yeah, so that is a phenomenal question. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this study, is that there are some locations where we have identified things like pedestrian overcrossings, but we haven't always thought about the cheaper solutions that could be done there to improve conditions for walking and biking. So this project is actually going to look at both and try to figure out, okay, are there areas where we should be investing in those more expensive facilities like the pedestrian overcrossings, but could there be a cheaper, transportation cheap is not cheap, I shouldn't say it that way, lower cost solution than a $20 million pedestrian overcrossing or something like that. So that's what they've been running now, about 18 to 20 million alone for one individual structure. So trying to figure out how we bring that number down to maybe there's a $10 million improvement or something we could do to get things across. The question about North Fair Oaks over the Caltrain lines, if my memory serves me right, that's because you had to get over the electrical gantries at a certain distance. And from my talks with the county, it was just so high and so costly that it became infeasible for that. We don't necessarily have those same limitations, and it's still getting over a freeway, but the general height isn't the same. So there's East Palo Alto's under development of one right now at University Avenue, and there's others proposed throughout the county as well. So not out of the realm of impossibility, but we want to know where those are needed and identified already. And then are they priorities, and will they score well for the grants that we can help bring in those monies?
And then, sorry, as a follow-up on that, is part of the project, because I know you said it was within a quarter mile of 101, is kind of the goal then connecting 101 transit points to like Caltrain, for example, and having access, getting people off of that. And so, for example, I know we've talked about on the council, there's that Dumbarton Spur that kind of runs right through our community, which is a great way, if there was a way for pedestrians or bicyclists or whoever to get from that 101 area, Marsh Manor, to the Redwood City Transit Center, for example. And so I don't know if that falls in that area, or is that kind of like a.
If my memory serves me right, that's technically outside of the quarter mile, but the intent of what you're saying is correct, that while we're looking just within a quarter mile for these identified needs, the idea is to actually, with those 8 to 10 projects, create more complete corridors that address those needs, but make sure they actually connect into real destinations when we look at those more in particular.
Thank you. And I guess the last one is, I think you just need to update the Caltrain on there. You got the old one still.
Yes, my boss says the same thing. And I think the Dumbarton Spur portion, Samtrans will be kicking off the Dumbarton feasibility study for that too. So they're going to be looking at other biking and walking and bus improvements to the Dumbarton corridor as well, to the where the rail corridor is.
Thank you.
That will be next year though, but we'll be back on the second.
Someone else would like to speak, Kathleen?
Yeah, so when I think of the 101 corridor, I think of like where it affects us the most would be Whipple, Woodside, and Marsh. You can get across at all of those places. Are you looking for how to make it safer, easier? Like if I wanted to get to Bayfront Bedwell off of Marsh, I can walk across there. Do I feel particularly safe doing it? Is that what we're kind of looking for?
Yes, and I just wanted to note, he's taking notes, he's not texting.
Okay, no. And then when I think of Woodside Road, well, that project, it's gonna include that exchange, but so you're saying if you had a magic wand and you could add something to that crossing, what would you want?
It could be that crossing or any of the crossings, yes.
Okay, so Whipple is pretty good now, when you think about trying to get over to that side of Redwood City. So, but that's the crossings that we're kind of talking about, right? And up and down from those as well?
Exactly, the entirety of US 101 technically is what we're looking at.
Okay, so then the question would be, is getting from Whipple, I crossed over Whipple from Redwood Shores, and I wanted to get to Marsh Manor, but I didn't, and I wanted to just follow the 101 corridor. What's are safe ways to get there? Okay, just want to make sure. All right, thank you.
Blair, you had your hand up next.
I brought up the website and I'll vote and give you my email so I can win a potentially gift card for shopping. I bike a lot. I like to do loops. So destinations for me, like Ravenswood, Dental Clinic in East Palo Alto, IKEA, when they had the cheap breakfast, but now they've raised the prices. But I like to kind of go, my range is Palo Alto, Mountain View, maybe Sunnyvale. And there's some really nice crossings on the freeway. And I like to parallel the 101 corridor. And sometimes I do the Bayfront, and sometimes I do like the El Camino side or the Middlefield. Going north, my range is like the city of San Mateo, Belmont, San Carlos, Redwood City. I would actually, I'm kind of a crazy bicyclist, but I would not try Woodside Road to get from here to the other side. I will cross Woodside to get to like Smart and Final and to loop through the neighborhoods to get back to my house, but it's just totally not safe. And I've been coming back on that Bayfront Road by the trailer parks. And I'll go up to that Maple Street Bridge, but now it's like under construction, one lane. It's another nightmare. We lack a lot of park opportunities and recreation opportunities. And I think the Bayside offers a recreational outlet that people may not be taking advantage of, because like Marsh Road with that irrigation corridor along the right between Middlefield and like Marsh Manor, there's this big old ditch and there's absolutely no shoulder, and it's not safe to drive, to walk or to ride a bike along that. But I could take Fifth Avenue and then go down like Bay and loop around. There's different workarounds you find, but there are like these disconnected points. So I'll have to spend some time looking at the things and can I put all 10 votes in favor of one thing? Like, it's like weighted.
That you can, you could put 1 on 10.
And
split
then
it on
can I
2, don't-
use a different email address and vote again or? Nah, but I appreciate the outreach. The people in the mobile home parks on the other side of the freeway, they're Redwood City residents, but we are all sharing the same space and similar social economic circumstances. You know, we're just trying to make things work with the money we have, a place to live, get to work. So the lack of recreation, I think this has opportunity to open that up. And I bet you there's like a place that sells propane and like groceries for the RV living type people. But, you know, if you don't have a car, you gotta cross over to get to a grocery store. Yeah, I'm thinking about that area. But I'm rambling at this point, so thanks.
So you should only vote once, but you can share it with your networks and maybe they feel similarly as you do.
I'll put it on next door and I'll say there's a lost cat.
Any other council member? Ever?
Thank you for your presentation, and I'm wondering how else are you promoting the voting for these options in addition to your website?
So we're going to multiple different pop-up events throughout the county to make sure we're actually getting out there in person. We're promoting them through social media, so making sure that we have languages with a video on their website that is in multiple languages as well, or has closed captioning in multiple languages. So making sure that that gets targeted through there, and we're coming to groups like this all across the county. So Kelsey and I are on a road show is what we like to call it. So making sure that we're out communicating with cities, getting in school district newsletters, getting in city newsletters, all those different types of things from the county supervisors newsletters too as well. So trying a whole host of different things to get this messaging out there.
And I'll also add that I'm also a liaison with our CBO, so I'm sending it to Thrive Alliance, getting it in their newsletter as well as many of the CBOs throughout the county.
Excellent, thank you.
Kelly, did you have your hand up? Okay, okay.
Thanks. So I was just going through the website and the tool. I noticed that Marsh Road overcrossing wasn't some project. Does that mean that there's nobody submitted anything and everybody thinks that's great? Or is that just not in plans?
It means it probably didn't score in the top 25 for this part of the county when we narrowed down that 148 number. It's the difficulty of this problem, exactly. So, but if there are needs like that, do make sure these are important for us to get in these meetings. So that's why we make sure the data can only tell us so much. So making sure that we can look at that as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because then if I look right over down at Willow Road, I see like 10, 12 projects all right in the same area. So again, and I know they just redid all of that, a few years ago for the overcrossings and planning for that. So again, just trying to figure out where and how, so if there was some auditing or anything going on the projects.
Yeah, we have done auditing on the projects. It's just a massive undertaking. So we'll definitely take a double look at it for sure. Okay. Yeah.
And again, just as somebody who's bicycled across the Marsh Road one, trying to cut across 2 lanes of people going onto the freeway, not paying attention to pedestrians, not expecting it, becomes a real challenge. It's even with the crosswalks there, they're very far in, and so it's really hard for motorists to see anybody going there. So it's easier to actually bicycle in the middle of the traffic than it is to try and follow the sidewalk or pedestrian side. Just some comments on that. Thanks.
Any other council members? Go ahead, Brooks. Brooks and then.
Yeah, Patrick, as you probably know, there's a lot of discussion going on with regard to regional transit funding measures, trying to get something on the ballot that would be orders of magnitude in terms of money, unlike anything we've ever seen before. Are you guys plugged into that as a source of funding? You mentioned grants, but if that happens, there's a lot of opportunity there, obviously.
Yeah, the larger San Mateo County Transit District and our government affairs team is deeply involved in those conversations.
And these projects could theoretically benefit from an initiative.
Yeah, so there's many different strategies they're looking at and different types of taxation methods for those, but the buckets are there. So we are advocating for these types of projects too, because similarly, when I was here in the spring for talking about regional transit connections for Measure W, one of the big outcomes of that we heard was the same thing, that these walking and biking projects are essential to get people to transit. And it's a barrier to taking transit if you can't get there. No.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Blair? Okay. Any other comments from any other council members? Yes, please.
Thank you for the information for the KIPP students. You got back to me the other day, so I appreciate that, Shirley. Just wanted to get shots.
Thank you, guys. I have no comments. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all for having us.
Okay, we'll move on to the next council.
If you would like to comment on agenda item number 5, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. You'll be granted 2 minutes to speak at the time your name is called. No public comment. Back to you, Chair.
No public comments. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is the informational Star Vista Community Wellness Crisis Response Team. The mic is yours.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Naff. I'm the crisis clinician with Star Vista, partnered with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Department in North Fair Oaks. We have our Captain Valporto here. So I'm just going to give you some information about this new response team, specifically with the Sheriff's Department in North Fair Oaks. So Star Vista is a community mental health agency, and CWCRT stands for Community Wellness and Crisis Response Team. We are partnered with San Mateo County, BHRS, and several police departments throughout the county. So I have colleagues who work in San Mateo, PD, Redwood City, San Bruno, South San Francisco, East Palo Alto, San Bruno, and then unincorporated Redwood City, which is North Fair Oaks. So that's where I am. And so the reason for us partnering with law enforcement is to improve, the response to mental health cases with law enforcement. So providing mental health clinicians to go out with law enforcement on those cases. So it's just to help provide better care to the people in the community, and also support law enforcement so they can do what we do, or they can do what they do best, and then we can help them with the mental health support that's needed for people in the community. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about me. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I actually grew up here in San Mateo County. I just moved back here from San Jose, so I'm excited to be back here in the county. My background is working in crisis. So I worked for 5 years with a community mental health agency in Santa Clara County, and we did crisis evaluations for kids and adolescents throughout the county of Santa Clara. And so I've done this work for a long time. I also worked in an inpatient facility, psychiatric facility, and then I worked in the emergency room at Kaiser doing psychiatric evaluations. I did other things, away from crisis for a bit, but then I realized that I do really want to come back and work in crisis because that's where I found my niche. So when this opportunity came to work directly with law enforcement, that was something that really excited me. So I'm really happy to be part of, work with the Sheriff's Department and serve the community of North Fair Oaks. So how, the clinicians support law enforcement, specifically in the situation, the sheriff's department. So the main thing that I do is 5150 evaluations. I don't know if anyone's familiar with what 5150 evaluations are, but they're a legal document stating that somebody can be held up to 72 hours for involuntary psychiatric evaluation if they're a danger to themselves, danger to others, or they're so incapacitated they can't care for their basic needs, which is gravely disabled. So that's the main thing that I'll be doing is the 5150 evaluations. I can also provide just any type of mental health support. So even if someone's not needing that level of intervention, I can help with just basic, emotional support, connecting people to resources, providing some type of clinical intervention, also doing follow-up for people. And what that means is, even if they're placed on a 5150, connecting with them a few days later to see how things are going, make sure they're connected with services. If we do a safety plan, also following up with them. And I typically do, I can do up to 3 follow-ups for somebody. We also have another team in the area called PERT, which is our psychiatric emergency response team. And so they do long-term follow-up. So there is that option so that if someone in the county or in North Fair Oaks specifically is needing some ongoing support, I can do a warm handoff to that PERT team. I also help with substance use. So pretty much the same thing, connecting someone with resources, homelessness. I know we have our own, there's other homelessness support teams out there, but I can also help connect them directly, do that warm handoff, and just assist in the moment with any type of crisis going on. I put cognitive disorders and developmental disorders up there as well, because there are a lot of overlap with those, right? Mental health disorders and maybe autism. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's have, they can be aggressive towards other people. So maybe they may need some type of mental health support as well with that. So those are things that sometimes overlap, which is why I wanted to include them. And I can also help in those situations as well. So resources that I use every day. I do have a police radio. It's right there. It's very large, but it's very helpful so that I can listen into what's going on the radio. I have a radio sign, so it's very easy for me to listen to what's going on, get to a case very quickly. I am stationed at the North Fair Oaks substation on Middlefield, so it's easy for me to go in the county car. I don't have lights and sirens like the deputies do, but I can get to a mental health crisis very quickly because I'm in the community. I have access to mental health records through it's called Sorian, but it's for the medical center, San Mateo Medical Center, those records. So I can just have more background on what's going on for people, and then also the BHRS system. And then again, I partner with Life Moves, any type of child welfare agencies or APS. Again, the county behavioral health recovery services, so that we can provide the best care for somebody, provide warm handoffs and everything like that, and work together to support the people in the community. And then how I'm accessed, typically 911 is the best way. Someone advocating for a mental health clinician, that's the fastest way. Again, you can also request a CIT officer as well, but that's the best way to get somebody out there as quickly as possible. I do have a work cell phone. Again, I don't work all the time. I can go through my hours, but 911 is the quickest and fastest way, because especially if there is an imminent risk of something, at least officers can get there on the scene before me, and then I can get there and we can, stabilize and intervene as quickly as possible. My contact information, my work cell is there. I have 2 different emails, one for the county and one for Star Vista, the mental health agency I work for. My hours right now are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. I did just start in this role. I started training a couple of months ago, and then I went, I've been fully into this role for about 3 weeks now, almost 4 weeks. So still getting, acclimated to the to North Fair Oaks and, trying to spread my name around so people know that I'm here, but those are my hours. So during that time, you know, I'm best reachable by phone or email, and I have business cards that I can provide to you if you'd like. And I've also been providing them to people in the community so that they can call me directly, even if they have questions or not in an imminent crisis. They can call me. I can help connect them with resources, things like that. So I do want to be accessible to people in the community. And again, just a statistic on, you know, why it's so important to get mental health support. You know, 22.8% of people experience mental illness, and that was back in 2021. You know, I'm sure the number has changed, especially since we went through COVID. But there is a lot of serious mental illness, you know, substance use, the comorbid disorders. And so it's really important that the people in the community and just anywhere get the help they need. And so, you know, I know the sheriff, you know, asked for a clinician to be in North Fair Oaks. And so I'm really excited to be here and get to know more about the community and help the people in the community, you know, especially the ones with mental health and substance use issues, you know, ranging from kids up to, you know, elder adults. So I'm just excited to be here. I think there's one more slide, but I think that might just be questions and comments. But I just wanted to, I know that's a lot of information, but I just wanted to, you know, introduce you to who I am and that I'm here in the community to support, and I welcome any comments or questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Council members, are there any comments or questions? Ever?
Thank you.
Very excited to keep this. Sorry. I'm sure it'll have huge impact in our community. Also, you know, to improve sheriff services. So how does it work? So do you monitor the radio and go to sites, or the sheriff calls you whenever there's a need?
Yes, so there's a couple different ways. So I have the radio on me, so I'm listening to different things that, you know, the different calls that come in. I do have access to the police system. It's called RIMS, which is like where all the law enforcement activity and all the cases are in real time being updated. So I'm constantly monitoring that as well. I also get text messages from dispatch when there's a welfare check. And so I am alerted that way as well, so I can kind of be prepared. And so there's multiple ways that I'm, you know, monitoring whether there's a case coming in. Dispatch, I do have to be dispatched, but I've also had officers call me on scene as well and say, you know, this call is actually turning into something that we may need your help in mental health wise. And so they'll call me directly or ask dispatch, or call me over dispatch and have me go out that way. So there's different ways that they can call me out and get a hold of me.
So
Yeah.
potentially you can do house visits if somebody were to call you.
Yeah, so in that case, I would encourage them to call 911, or if it's not an imminent issue, I would ask dispatch to, you know, hey, can you dispatch me to this house? You know, I'm gonna do a follow-up, or they're needing some support, and I would always have a deputy go with me because you never know kind of what's gonna come up. And so I can, you know, respond directly to the house. I can just have dispatch me, or have them call 911 if it's, you know, obviously a major crisis, have them go through that channel. But otherwise I would, you know, I would be planning on responding anyways. Yeah.
And then, as you probably notice, there's a lot of Spanish-speaking individuals, monolinguals, that sometimes they don't speak English.
Yes.
So how do you manage those places?
That's a great question. Yeah, I speak some Spanish and can understand, but I can't you know, unfortunately, I'm not a fluent speaker. So we do have deputies that speak Spanish, or we also have a translation line that we can use. I know it's not ideal, but we do have a translation line that we can use if there's no one available who can translate in person.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blair, you have your hand up first.
Welcome back to San Mateo County.
Thank you.
I've been reading about this for a few years, the social work or mental health professional response and embedded with law enforcement. And now it's real. There's an actual person in North Fair Oaks working with the sheriff's patrol section. In San Mateo County, do any other departments or patrol precincts have this, like Half Moon Bay or Redwood City or San Bruno or?
Yeah, so colleagues on the CWCRT team, they are in other parts of, they are in other police departments. So I'm the only one with the sheriff's department and I'm only in North Fair Oaks. But we have San Mateo PD, San Bruno, South San Francisco, San Mateo, Redwood. We do have someone Redwood City, East Palo Alto, and then we just had someone join Menlo Park PD.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say welcome and I look forward to
Thank
hearing
you.
more about this.
Thank you very much.
Kathleen?
Thank you so much for the work you do. It is not easy and it is so appreciated. So
Thank you.
thank you for serving the county. And if we ever need to go find funding for you to be 24/7 with the crew, let us know.
Yeah,
So
no, I've
it's
always,
so
yeah.
needed. It's so needed. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's a great way to support law.
thank you.
Sometimes situations are just so different. So really
Exactly.
appreciate you taking on that work.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the hope, I'm hoping, you know, that we can hopefully expand the team one day and get more clinicians who can work around the clock or provide overtime, that type of thing. I know that's probably up at the top with Star Vista and, you know, the sheriff's department, but hopefully that's, you know, just coming in as, you know, even as a new clinician, I just hopefully, you know, I want to see the growth in the team because I know it's just needed everywhere. So I'm hoping that happens as well. Thank you.
Any other council members? Ever?
Sorry, I forgot to ask a question, but Kathleen remind me about it. I'd be interested in finding out how is your position funded? Is it through the sheriff's office or Star Vista or collaboration?
So I believe it's a grant. I'm not sure exactly what grant, but it's Star Vista and the county pay for like my salary basically. So it's a grant. And I believe I don't want to misquote, so I'm not sure how long it is for. But then they partnered like with the sheriff's department. So they're all BHRS, and I don't know if you know, Captain Del Porto, how that works. Yeah, BHRS and Star Vista both came together and they have a grant.
Okay,
Yeah.
and do you know if this is a trial only or is it gonna be an ongoing position?
So I believe is it a year grant? I think it's a year grant, and then they'll kind of reevaluate to see if it's still needed after a year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council members? Kelly?
Hi.
So great to hear about your work and
Thank
welcome
you.
back.
Thank you very much.
My only question / offer potentially to you is if it would be helpful for you to have a letter of support from the North Fair Oaks Community Council as your grant is looking to be re-extended or made permanent, what have you. I think there's a lot of goodwill and appetite for what you're doing, and we want to be supportive. So that is my comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated. So definitely as the grant's coming up for, you know, renewal or looking, that would be great. So hopefully I'll be back here and we can discuss that.
Through the chair, you know, I just wanted to clarify that was my intention about finding out, you know, about the funding essentially, because I foresee that this is going to be an essential position.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other council members? I do have a question. What is the protocol in the event that you're not working in the days or hours? What is the protocol from the sheriff's department when these crises come up?
That's a very good question. So if I'm out, I think what usually happens is it's just the deputies responding. I think that's, yeah, and PERT, yes. So PERT is it's for the sheriff's department, the psychiatric emergency response team. They actually cover San Carlos right now, and other parts of the county. So they would be covering, North Fair Oaks. Thank you for clarifying that. So they would be covering their clinicians as well. So they would be covering, if I'm not here or, you know, on the days that I'm not here, since I don't work Mondays. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
If there are no other comments from council members, are there any public comment regarding this agenda item?
If you would like to comment on agenda item number 6, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. You will be granted 2 minutes to speak at this time. Your name is called. No public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Looks like.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to meet all of you and thank you for your time.
But we'll move on now to our report outs. So the District 4.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I get really nervous when I have to speak to you guys, so sorry about that. So for our district report out today, we have some updates on Measure K that were approved by the board in the month between the last meeting to now. So we did fund Generations United. I think we all know who they are, a nonprofit in Redwood City, for a $40,000 grant for a van as they were relocated to Veterans Avenue, I believe. And so they wanted a van to have the students from that they serve get driven over to their new location. So that was one of the Measure K grants that we gave. We also funded the Circuit EPA in East Palo Alto. They are developing technology to educate new-coming students. That was a $50,000 grant. We also funded Family Connections, who've served 30 years as a co-op preschool model in the location in East Palo Alto. They were also they were residing or had a location at the Ravenswood School District, but due to district renovations, they were asked to find a new location, and so they asked for funding for $2,400. No, just kidding. $24,000 for rent assistance. And we also funded one of the initiatives that was brought by the council to Supervisor Slocum about a North Fair Oaks branding. And so we granted a Measure K, or the board granted a Measure K grant for $42,000. Through the county executive's office to hire a firm to enhance the sense of community and identity among residents and small businesses, while ensuring the broader community is aware of North Fair Oaks and its uniqueness. And so we are actually met with them this week to do a kickoff call and identify some key stakeholders, as well as learn about the contract and what that entitles and what we're going to get afterwards. And so we did have a list of some of the council members on that list, identified you guys on that list. And so we'll be connecting you guys with the contractor. They're called In-House Strategies. And they will be reaching out to conduct interviews to learn more about you and your take on North Fair Oaks, as well as other community members and businesses. So that's on Measure K and the North Fair Oaks branding. We are also hosting an event with the library on Saturday for Day of the Dead. It's a kid program from 10 to 12. We'll have an altar. We'll be able to decorate 3D printed schools. And so please spread the word for anyone who has children or anyone who's interested in going. I also want to do another call for touring the county center. I know Vice Chair George and Kelly went, and so I'm encouraging you all again to please reach out to us if you want to schedule that. We at the board meeting on Tuesday, the tree ordinance did pass unanimously, so thank you, Kelly and Nikat, for your help there. And then the last update I have is we did help and assist Chair Prado. Yes, Prado, and then Nikat and Kelly with the NFO council member recruitment. They did nominate
one of the applicants, and we did reach out to them. We're just waiting on them to accept the nomination, and once they accept, we will, let everyone know who that person is, and we'll have to bring that to the Board of Supervisors for approval as they are appointed by them. And that should be coming in the November board meeting, and we can let you guys know when that happens. But that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the county executives? No, not tonight. Okay, we'll go down the list for council members. If you have anything to report out tonight, George is not here. Blair?
I'm gonna go to the Veterans Day thing, the supervisor doing it. I actually bought a $60 ticket and paid, but I did it because I support our veterans, so I'll report back out.
Awesome. Great. Niket, anything to report tonight?
Not tonight. Thank you for the tree ordinance update. Appreciate it.
Okay, Kathleen,
Nothing to report.
Ever?
Couple of quick things. I attended the ceremony right here for the Fair Oaks Community Center's anniversary. It was extremely well attended, people standing, and it was a very happy celebration. The community center received a couple of honors from the city of Redwood City, as well as from San Mateo County for the 50 years of service that they have provided this community. And yeah, it was really nice to see. Everything was open. They had a lot of exhibits, with photographs that community members and community associations sent throughout the years. So it was a nice and well-deserved celebration.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I just wanted to put it on this council's radar that November, and Connie, you can remind me, I want to say it's the 21st, but I could be wrong about that, is Slocum's last board meeting before he turns out. And I was thinking for our next council meeting, if we could do some sort of recognition or something for him to think about how we can honor his years of service to North Fair Oaks. So really no grand idea other than just wanted this group to think about.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and just to piggyback on that comment, just to remind everyone that next month, because of Thanksgiving in November, our meeting is the 21st. So make sure you mark that in your calendars, because there is a change, which normally happens, which we do every. Thank you for that, Kelly. Brooks?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify with Kelly, the date of Slocum's last board meeting is what?
Tommy would have to, thought it was the 21st, but
It would be on a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
Completely wrong. I think I was thinking.
You're good.
Yeah, so we should definitely consider a resolution at our next meeting.
Yeah.
For years of service. I'll be at the Veterans Lunch as well, Blair, on the 8th, I think it is.
Friday.
Yeah. And work continues apace on 16th Avenue. I'd just like to publicly give a shout out to Ann Stillman and everybody in Public Works, Christoph Wency Ing, who's the project manager. They're doing an enormous amount of work out there in a very short period of time. They've picked an excellent contractor who is terrific to work with and has really gotten along well with all of our neighbors and everything. So just a terrific job on the part of Public Works.
Wow, thank you. We don't hear that a lot. Thank you. It's always welcome. Well, I'll do my report out. We did have multiple, 4 to be exact, interviews. So that'll be released in due time as far as who the candidate was selected. Niket and Kelly and I were part of that group for the interview process. And I also want to piggyback on whatever mentioned about the anniversary of the Fair Oaks Community Center. I don't want to bore you guys with my childhood stories, but some new people here. You know, as a child, I grew up here, and I always like to share the story that the only library we had when I was a kid was just a room down the hall here. That was the library. You know, been coming here ever since. So it was a great event for that. Also, want to remind everyone, one of our greatest, I mean, at least I'm excited for it every year, the Day of the Dead event in downtown Redwood City, put together by the Casa Círculo. It's an amazing event. It starts in the afternoon, but for me, the event really comes alive is at night. That's when it really comes alive. Everyone dressed up, and the grave sites, the art, decoration, the live music, the dancing. So if you can invite your friends, family, neighbors, it's a great event. So this year will be Sunday, November 3rd, downtown Redwood City Plaza. So put together by our own North Fair Oaks organization, Casa Círculo. So I just wanted to shout out to that. I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
Wait, sorry, one more thing. Through the chair, the last board of supervisor meeting will be December 10th, Tuesday, December 10th. Yeah. Slocum's last meeting. But the last meeting, yeah, of the year.
It's 4 days after my birthday, but I think I can swing it. I'll be recovered by then. All right, guys. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good
Don't
evening.
forget to vote.
Thanks.